There is a question that hides inside every mirror you have ever looked into. You may not have heard it with your ears, but some part of you has felt it in the quiet hours before sleep, or in the strange silence after a birthday candle is blown out. The question is simple, and it is this: what if the thing you have been searching for, the thing that keeps a person feeling alive, awake, and young at heart, was never something you had to buy, chase, or earn? What if it was something you were born with, something you used every single day as a child without even noticing it, and something the world slowly, quietly, gently talked you out of? Look around you. Everywhere you turn, someone is selling youth. Creams promise to erase the lines that time has drawn on your face. Diets promise to turn back a clock that was never mechanical to begin with. Supplements line the shelves with bold letters shouting about vitality, energy, and eternal youth. And yet, if you have paid attention to life at all, you already know a secret that no advertisement will ever tell you. You have met people in their 80s who seem to glow with life, whose eyes sparkle when they speak, who laugh from somewhere deep in their belly, who ask questions like a 5-year-old discovering the world for the very first time. And you have also met people in their 20s and 30s who already seem tired of everything, who walk through their days as if they are simply waiting for something to end, whose eyes have gone flat, whose questions have turned into complaints. Age, it turns out, was never really about the number of years a body has carried. It was always about something else, something quieter, something we lost without realizing we were losing it. That something is curiosity. Not the shallow curiosity of scrolling through headlines or peeking into other people's lives, but the deep, ancient, sacred curiosity of a mind that has not yet decided it knows everything. This is the medicine, not a pill, not a serum, not a procedure performed in a clinic under bright lights, a way of seeing. A way of meeting the world each morning as if it might still surprise you, because it can and it will if you let it. Think back for a moment to when you were very young. You did not walk into a room and immediately categorize everything in it as boring, familiar, or unworthy of your attention. You walked into a room and every object was an invitation. A cardboard box was not garbage. It was a spaceship, a cave, a secret hideout. A puddle was not an obstacle. It was an ocean waiting to be explored with rubber boots and reckless joy. You asked questions constantly. Why is the sky blue? Where do the stars go in the daytime? Why do people cry when they are happy sometimes? Nobody had to teach you to wonder. Wonder was your first language, long before words arrived to translate it. And then slowly, something happened. Somewhere between childhood and adulthood, a quiet agreement was made, one you never consciously signed but somehow inherited anyway. The agreement said this: to be taken seriously, you must stop asking so many questions. To be respected, you must appear to already know. To be safe, you must stop being so easily amazed, because amazement makes you look naive, and naivety, the world whispered, is weakness. So you folded up your wonder like an old letter and tucked it away in some drawer inside yourself, and you picked up instead the tools of certainty, opinions, routines, labels. You learned to walk through a forest without looking up at the trees, because you had somewhere to be. You learned to eat a meal without tasting it, because you were thinking about tomorrow's problems. You learned to sit across from another human being, a whole universe of memory and feeling and history, and see only their job title, their role in your life, their usefulness to your plans. This is not a flaw in your character. This is simply what happens to almost everyone who moves through a world that rewards speed over depth, certainty over openness, and productivity over presence. But here is the extraordinary truth hiding beneath all of that conditioning. Nothing was ever actually lost. It was only buried. And anything that is buried can be found again, if you are willing to dig. This is where the real awakening begins, not in some faraway mountain temple, not in a single dramatic moment of enlightenment, but in the small, quiet decision to become curious again about your own life. To stop assuming you already understand yourself completely. To stop assuming you already understand the people around you completely. To stop assuming that today will simply be a repeat of yesterday. Because the moment you assume that, you stop looking, and the moment you stop looking, you stop truly living, even while your body continues to breathe and move and age. Consider what it truly means to grow old in the way that frightens people, not the wrinkling of skin or the graying of hair, but the slow calcification of the soul. It happens when a person stops asking why and starts only asking how much longer. It happens when curiosity is replaced by cynicism, when wonder is replaced by weariness, when every new idea is met not with open hands but with crossed arms and a tired sigh that says, "I have seen it all before." But have you really? Has anyone ever truly seen it all? The universe does not repeat itself exactly, not once, not ever. No two sunsets are identical. No two conversations, even with the same person about the same topic, unfold in exactly the same way, because you are not exactly the same person you were yesterday, and neither are they. Something in you is quietly changing always, moment to moment, cell to cell, thought to thought. To assume you already know how something will go, how someone will respond, how a day will unfold, is to close a door on a room you have never actually fully entered. This is the deep, honest work of staying young, learning to meet your own life the way a curious child meets a locked door, not with fear of what might be behind it, but with a quiet thrill at the mystery of not yet knowing. This requires something that modern life rarely gives us permission to do. It requires slowing down. Not stopping, not withdrawing from responsibility, but simply slowing the pace at which you consume your own existence, so that you can actually taste it instead of merely swallowing it whole. There is an old kind of awakening that many wise traditions have spoken about in different words across different centuries, and at its core it always points toward the same undeniable truth. Inside every human being lives more than one self. There is the self you present to the world, polished, practiced, safe. And there is a deeper self, older than your habits, wiser than your fears, that has been waiting patiently in the background of your life for you to finally turn around and notice it. This deeper self is not interested in your job title. It is not impressed by how busy you are. It does not care how many likes your last post received. It cares only about one thing: whether you are actually awake while you are alive, or whether you are simply sleepwalking through your own story, checking boxes, following scripts someone else wrote for you long before you were even born. To meet this deeper self, you do not need to travel to a mountain or sit in silence for 40 days. You only need to begin asking questions again, real questions, the kind that have no easy answer, the kind that make you a little uncomfortable, because discomfort, it turns out, is often simply the sensation of an old idea being challenged by a new possibility. Why do I react so strongly when someone disagrees with me? What am I actually afraid of losing when I refuse to try something new? Who was I before the world told me who I should become? These are not questions for philosophers locked away in ivory towers. These are questions for every single person who has ever felt the strange, hollow ache of going through the motions of a life that no longer feels like their own. And here is where curiosity becomes truly powerful, not just as a mood or a personality trait, but as a form of medicine in the deepest sense of that word. Medicine, at its root, has always meant something that restores balance, something that heals what has become sick or stagnant. Stagnation is the real enemy of youth, not the passing of years, but the freezing of growth. A river that stops flowing does not stay pure, it grows still, and stillness without movement eventually turns to decay. A mind that stops asking questions does not stay wise. It grows rigid, and rigidity, no matter how it is dressed up in confidence or authority, is a kind of quiet dying that happens long before the body ever gives out. Curiosity keeps the river moving. It keeps the mind fluid, adaptable, alive. When you approach your emotions with curiosity instead of judgment, something remarkable happens. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me for feeling this way?" you begin to ask, "What is this feeling trying to tell me?" Instead of pushing sadness away as if it were an enemy invading your peace, you turn toward it gently and ask what it needs. This is not weakness. This is emotional intelligence in its rawest and most honest form. The willingness to actually feel what you feel instead of numbing it, labeling it as bad, or performing a version of happiness you do not actually possess. A person who can sit with their own difficult emotions without collapsing into them or running from them is a person who has done something genuinely rare in this world. They have grown up without growing hard. Think about the people who have ever made you feel truly alive to be around them. Chances are, it was not their wealth or their status that drew you in. It was their aliveness. The way their eyes lit up when they talked about something they loved. The way they listened to you as if you were the most fascinating person in the room. Not because they were performing politeness, but because they were genuinely curious about your inner world. These people did not lose their wonder. They protected it, cultivated it, chose it again and again, even when life gave them every excuse to grow bitter or numb. And in protecting their wonder, they protected something even more precious: their capacity to keep becoming, instead of simply remaining the same fixed version of themselves for the rest of their lives. This is the awakening that so many ancient teachings have tried to describe using different symbols and different languages, but always pointing at the same central fire. You are not a finished product. You are a process. You are not a fixed identity that must be defended at all costs. You are an unfolding story, still being written, still capable of surprising even yourself. The moment you decide you already know exactly who you are and exactly what you believe about everything, forever unchangeable, is the moment a kind of quiet death begins, long before the body catches up to it. But the moment you allow yourself to say, "I do not fully know, I am still learning, I am still becoming," something in you begins to soften and expand at the same time. This is not confusion. This is aliveness. This is the beginner's mind returning home after a long exile, the mind that looks at an ordinary cup of tea and notices the steam rising like a small ghost, that looks at a familiar face across the table and notices, just for a second, how strange and miraculous it is that this person exists at all, out of the infinite possibilities of the universe. Sitting right here, sharing this moment with you. There is a kind of grief that lives quietly underneath a life lived without wonder, even if that grief is never spoken aloud. It shows up as a vague dissatisfaction that cannot be explained by circumstances. Everything looks fine on paper, the job is stable, the relationships are functioning, the bills are paid, and yet something feels missing, something feels muted, as if the colors of life have been slightly turned down without anyone's permission. This is often what happens when curiosity has been quietly starved for too long. The soul does not thrive on stability alone. It thrives on discovery, on the small daily proof that life still has something new to offer, that you yourself still have something new to become. The good news, the truly good news, is that this muscle of wonder, even if it has gone dormant for years, even if it has been buried under decades of routine and disappointment and the accumulated weight of trying to survive in a demanding world, is never actually gone. It can be woken up, it can be strengthened again, slowly, the same way any dormant muscle is strengthened, through small, consistent, gentle use. It begins with permission. Permission to ask a question you feel embarrassed to ask. Permission to try something you might be bad at, simply because trying it feels alive in a way that staying comfortable never will. Permission to look at your own reflection, not with the harsh, critical eye of judgment, but with the same gentle curiosity you might offer a stranger you were just meeting for the first time. Who is this person? What do they truly want, underneath all the roles they play for everyone else? What lights them up? What have they been afraid to admit, even to themselves? This kind of inner curiosity is not selfish. It is, in fact, one of the most generous things you can offer the world, because a person who is curious about their own depths naturally becomes more compassionate toward the depths of others. When you understand how complicated and layered your own inner life truly is, you stop expecting other people to be simple. You stop reducing them to their worst moment, their one mistake, their single visible layer. You begin to sense, almost intuitively, that everyone you meet is carrying an entire universe inside them, just as complex and unresolved and beautiful as your own, and that recognition alone can soften every interaction you have for the rest of your life. This is what it truly means to stay young. Not the absence of wrinkles, not the tightness of skin, not the number that appears on a piece of identification. It is the presence of wonder. It is the willingness to keep asking why, even when the world insists you should already know. It is the courage to feel your emotions fully instead of performing a version of composure that slowly hollows you out from the inside. It is the humility to admit that you are still growing, still learning, still becoming someone you have not fully met yet, and the excitement of realizing that this is not a flaw in your life, but the entire point of it. Somewhere inside you right now, underneath whatever tiredness or routine or disappointment life may have handed you recently, there is still a child who once looked at a beetle crawling across the sidewalk with total fascination, who once believed that anything was possible, who once asked 100 questions in a single afternoon simply because the world seemed too interesting to leave any stone unturned. That child did not disappear. That child is still there, patient, quiet, waiting for you to turn around and remember. You do not need permission from anyone else to begin. You do not need the perfect circumstances, the perfect amount of free time, the perfect state of health or wealth or certainty. You only need to make one small choice, over and over again, day after day, to meet your life with curiosity instead of assumption, to meet your emotions with gentleness instead of judgment, to meet other people as mysteries worth exploring instead of categories already understood, to meet yourself, even after all these years, as someone still capable of surprising you. This is the medicine the world has been searching for in bottles and creams and procedures, when it was never actually locked away in a laboratory at all. It was inside you the entire time, patiently waiting, in the part of you that still remembers how to wonder. Every single day gives you a fresh dose of it, if you choose to take it. Every sunrise is a question the universe is asking you again. Will you notice me today, or will you walk past me the way you walked past yesterday? Choose to notice, choose to ask, choose to feel. Choose to remain, in the deepest and most honest sense of the word, a beginner, forever curious about the astonishing gift of simply being alive. That choice, made quietly, made daily, made with courage and gentleness in equal measure, is the closest thing this world has ever offered to eternal youth. Not because it will stop your body from aging, but because it will keep your spirit from ever growing old. And so, whatever season of life you find yourself in today, whatever weight you may be carrying, whatever quiet tiredness has settled into your bones, know this: it is not too late. It is never too late to look at the world again with fresh eyes. It is never too late to ask one more question, to feel one more feeling fully, to meet one more person as if they were the most fascinating story you have ever encountered. The child inside you is still waiting. The wonder is still there. And the moment you decide to reach for it again is the moment you begin truly to stay young.